So one of the things that I hope you're seeing is that at the beginning of our practice sheets, we're constantly reminding ourselves of what we've learned in the first 6 chapters by doing dividing and labeling so that we don't forget. And this is designed to not allow you to forget. So go ahead and take the one on the right, do that one first, and then let's compare notes and see what we've got. So what do I want you to label? Any shavas, any comment symbols, divide syllables, label for open, closed, tonic, pre-tonic, and so forth, okay? So I will mute myself here and let our folks talk. You can mute yourselves and compare notes with your friend when you're done. I'll give you about a minute and a half, okay? So let's take a look at what we've got here. Looking at the front of this word, I have a consonant followed by a vowel. I should just divide there and not look at anything else, right? Never do that if there's a shava right after that consonant and vowel, because I got to figure out whether that's silent or vocal before I know where that dividing line goes. So what do? I look where? Look to the right. Hirik is short. The shava is silent, and I divide where? Left. To the left. Silent shavas always mark what kind of syllable? Closed syllable. So that is closed. All right. This consonant has a vowel. Can I go ahead and divide there? Yes, because there's no shava immediately after. I don't need to settle a shava question. I know that the next consonant and its vowel hang together. Is that open or closed? Open. Open. Good. Final syllable. Or should I divide here? No. Is that open or closed? Open. Open. How do I know it's not closed? I would say no mapik. No mapik. No mapik. If there's a mapik, the hey is a consonant, and it's closed if there's a mapik and the hey is a consonant. There's no mapik, therefore that's a mater hey. If it's a mater, then the vowel is kamate. Mame, consonant, kamate, vowel. So that is what? Oh. Open. It is open. All right, good. Where's the tone? Last. Last syllable. The one before is pre-tonic. The one before that? Proper-tonic. Very good. So, and then let's figure out the kamets issues. What do I always ask to know whether the kamet symbol is kamets or kamets ketuf? Is it a cuss syllable, right? Are any of these in a cuss syllable? No. No, because they are both open, not closed. Cuss means closed. Say it with me. Closed, unaccented syllables require a short vowel. Yep. Neither of those syllables is closed, so they can't be cuss. If they were cuss syllables, they would be kametz ketuf, right? If it's not a cuss syllable, I assume it's what? Kametz. That's right. So I've got 2 cues here for kametz. Okay, good. Any questions there? Okay, let's look at this last one here. So go ahead and do this one together, or do it independently. Explain to your neighbor what's going on, why you've done what you've done, and then we'll walk through it too. All right, let's take a look at what we've got here. We want to divide and conquer this puppy. It needs to be conquered, doesn't it? It's confusing. So what do we got here? Well, I've got a consonant and a vowel. I could divide there, couldn't I?
Yes,
Yeah,
but not
maybe.
really, because
Can I do it without thinking about it?
no, you have to think about it.
Got to solve the shava question first, don't I? Well, that's always easy. Just look to the right. Isn't that clear?
Yes, but then you have to look to the left.
Not exactly, right? That's ambiguous. So I look to the left and I see a metheg. So there is a metheg here. What does that tell me about that symbol?
It's a kametz.
That it's a long A. It's a kametz if there's a metheg and then a shava after. And if that's a long A, kametz, the shava has to be what?
Vocal.
If the Shiva is vocal, where do I divide?
To the
Right, divide to the right. And then I can just divide here, yeah?
Oh.
No, everybody
No.
say boo. Yeah, you can't do that. Never divide to the left of a vocal Shiva. It piggybacks on to the next consonant and its vowel. So, should I divide anywhere else here? How many vowels do I have?
We're done.
I have 2 vowels, right? And that's it. 1 and 2. So, that's it. We're done dividing. Let's think about our tone here for a second. What's the first, or where's the tonic syllable?
The end.
It's at the end. We have tonic here, and the one before is
We're done.
tonic. The one before is open or closed?
Open.
Open. It ends with a vowel, right? Ah. And then the last one is,
Open.
is it closed?
Open.
Oh, it's open. How do I know it's not closed? Harrison, how do I know that's not a closed syllable? The hey. What would the hey have in it if it were a consonant and the syllable were closed? It'd have a mapeak dot. There ain't no mapeak. It's not closed. This together forms a vowel, a single vowel transliterated like that, right? O, kla. Ah, it ends with the ah sound. O kla or kla. Okay, so let's see. So is that a kametz or a kametz ketuf at the end? That for that symbol there.
Correct.
It's got to be a kametz because we're not looking at what kind of syllable would we be looking for a kametz ketuf?
Close.
Or a cuss syllable. It need to be closed on an accent, but that's not closed on an accent. And once we've divided this, we know that this is not a cuss syllable over here. But we don't know whether it's cuss or not until we look at the method. Okay, good. Does anybody have any other questions? Have we got it all here? All right. Let's take a look at the exercises here on number 2. Now, I'm going to remind us about our endings. Our endings for masculine and feminine nouns. What are they again? 0 for masculine singular, a or t for feminine singular, masculine plural, im, and feminine plural, ot. Did we sing the song last week?
Yes.
Can we sing it again just for good measure?
We shall.
Let's do it. Okay, ready? 0 ata, 0 ata, im and ot, im and ot, 0 ata, im and ot, 0 ata, im and ot, im and ot. Okay, good. All right, so we have to remember that, but also keeping in mind that sometimes nouns are squirrely and their gendered endings will be the opposite of what we're expecting. Now, one of the things that we learned in the lesson was that there are certain peculiarities that will hop in as we start adding endings to a word. Where does the stress go when we add an ending to a word that didn't have an ending before?
At the end.
Yeah, the stress gets pulled to the end. All of these endings, at least the kametz hey, the im, and the ot, these are endings that start with vowels. I'm adding a vowel sound. I'm adding a vowel here with im. I'm adding a vowel with ot to that consonant. And so these are referred to as vocalic endings, recall? Vocalic endings are endings that begin with vowels. And that means that those vowels are going to grab the last consonant, which used to close the syllable, and it's going to pull that consonant over to start a new syllable. And this is the important thing. Vocalic endings pull the stress to the back. All right. Vocalic endings pull the stress to the back. Vocalic endings are like the tug of war kid that you put in the back, that he's the biggest, the strongest kid. And he pulls the stress to the end. Now, the other thing that we learned, well, actually, there's a couple of others. We'll hit them as we go. Just remind you that there is a principle of vowel reduction in Hebrew where open propertonic syllables like to reduce to what? Open propertonic syllables like to reduce to what? A vocal shava. Okay? So we have a lot of situations where a syllable is open and pretonic in the natural state of things when there's no ending. But when I add an ending, I'm adding a vowel. And that means that first syllable, which was open and pretonic, now becomes open and propertonic. It's going to reduce to vocal shava if it can. When can a vowel not reduce to vocal shava? If it's historically long. Historically long vowels do not change. Okay, they don't reduce. But anything that's not historically long is liable to reduce to vocal shava in an open propertonic situation. And that's what we see a lot of going on here in these examples. So there'll be a few other things that we learned in the lesson that we'll drill here, but that's the first part of focus. So we will focus on that. So let's first of all look at the word davar on the right, excuse me, on the left. What does that word mean?
Word.
Word. And I want to take this singular word and I want to pluralize it. What gender do you think davar is? Looking at the ending.
Masculine singular.
Masculine singular. Because it is an ending that is zero, right? That's a zero ending form. There's no ending there. Okay, so I'm going to assume masculine singular here. So I want to make this plural. How do I do that? I want to create the word words here. So what do? What is the masculine plural ending that I want to add over here on the backside?
In.
Now, do I put the Keurig over here? Like that?
No.
The rest.
Absolutely not. Where does this Keurig yod go?
British.
It's gonna go dance with the Reish, right? Reish is now going to come and start a dance with the Keurig yod. So let's just remind ourselves here. Let me take that ending off. What is the syllable structure of davar before I add anything to it? Where do I divide? Well, I've got a consonant vowel. Divide that there unless there's a shava to settle, but there ain't, right? So I'm good. Where's the tone?
At the end.
At the end. And is it open or closed?
That's close.
Look. The one before is
Open.
open and
Pretonic.
now let's grab that eam ending and let's attach it. Now, what do I have going on here? Do I have a closed syllable anymore?
Yes, but you have another.
No,
but it's the wrong part that's closed, right? Compared to what I had before. I have to now divide here, and the resh can't be part of the va syllable like it was before. So now resh goes with the Keurig yod main. Is that closed and tonic?
Yeah.
Yes. The middle syllable is now what?
Open. Pretonic.
It used to be closed. It was var, right? But now it's va. It's open and pretonic. And the first syllable is still open, but it's not pretonic anymore. It's propertonic. So now I have to apply any syllable rules that I've learned. This is our newest one, open propertonic syllables. We'll try to reduce to vocal shava. Then we had cuss, and we have old preacher sermons are long. What does cuss stand for, everybody?
Close. Accented
Require.
Require a short vowel. Old preacher sermons are long. OPSRL stands for what? Open pretonic syllables require a long. So do I have any open pretonic syllables here? Now, once I've added my ending. Yeah. What does it require?
Long.
Long vowel. Is that vowel already long?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't need to change it. But if it were short, what would I have to do? I'd have to lengthen it, right? Because it would have to become long if it were short. Do I have any open propertonic syllables now? Yes. Can I leave that kametz here? No, what's it going to do?
It's going
It's
to
gotta
use
go to
X
vocal
vocal shiva.
So instead of davarim, I get divarim. Once I make that reduction, then my division lines are totally screwed up, aren't they? Because now I have this dividing line next to a vocal shva. So if I were starting with divarim, I wouldn't put that divider there. That divider that you saw that I just deleted is what we did before we added the ending, okay? Just to show you that we have open proprotonic syllable now. It had to reduce the vocal shva. All right, so divarim. Say that to me, divarim.
Devarim.
Dr. Marshall?
Yes, sir.
So I just want to clarify, since we're reducing the vowel to a vocal shava, that's going to throw off our division lines for the syllables. So when you're talking about the old preacher sermons are long rule, are you lengthening that vowel before you make a vocal shava and change the dividing line? Which rule do you apply first? Does that make sense?
No, I'm trying to think of what you're asking.
Well, so you looked at the bet
Mhm.
with the comments under it,
Yeah,
and you asked the question, do we need to lengthen it? No, it's already long.
right.
But if you turn that vocal shava into a vocal shava before that, you don't even need to ask the question because it's not an open protonic syllable. Does that make sense now?
No, so I'm so sorry, but
Oh no, it still is open protonic. Okay, never mind. I see where I was confused.
okay, yeah. So like if I had this division here, and before I made this reduction, okay, and then I started here and said, is that open pretonic now? It's got to be long, and then I moved to the next one. If you had said, that's open proprotonic, and you started with that going to vocal shava, right? That would theoretically be okay, and then you could look at the next one. That's open pretonic there. Or if you remove the dividing line and say, well, now that I've got a vocal shava, I can't even consider that a syllable. It's this one's still open pretonic. It's got to follow the open pretonic.
Yeah,
rule.
yeah, that's where I was mistaken. Okay.
Yeah, but I find it easiest to start where tonic is, and then in terms of figuring out what the vowels should be or should have been, to move in that direction.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So divarim. So here's what I want you to do: is go to Navi here on the right. What does Navi mean, by the way?
Is it leader? Prophet?
Close. That's prophet. I don't know if you know the word Nasi. Nasi is a prince. That's interesting. But this is prophet. Okay. So that's prophet. We want to turn this into prophets, plural. So go ahead and work that one on your own, and then talk to your neighbor and compare, explain why you did what you did. I'll give you about 30 seconds here to do that. So do that real quick. Okay, great. So let's take a look here at Navi. Navi. By the way, actually here, I'll wait to make my comment here about this. If I want to think through the tone structure of this word, where would I divide the word Navi?
After the comments.
Yeah, I divide here, right? I divide here. I'm going to erase this line just so that I don't clutter things up, but just understand that there's an imaginary division line. So the final syllable, is that tonic or pretonic or post-tonic or what? And the one before is pretonic. And is the first syllable open or closed in this lexical form here? It's open. When I say lexical form, I mean the dictionary form, the form you learn as a vocab word, right? That's open and pretonic. Is this rule being followed here? The open pretonic syllables require a long vowel rule. Yes. Yeah, that's a long A, right? That's a comment. So right now, my syllable rules are being applied and followed very nicely and normally in the normal state of things. But if I want to make this plural, I have to know if this word prophet is masculine or feminine. Which is it? That's masculine. How do I know that without knowing anything else? There's no ending, right? There's no common say or final tav. So that's a masculine singular noun. How do I make masculine singular nouns plural? I add what? Eem, which is Keurig under the final consonant, yod. Keurig yod, right? And then main. Now, is this aleph going to keep trying to close the syllable before, or is it going to open a new syllable with the Keurig yod? Open a new. It's going to open a new syllable. So that's going to be open or closed syllable on the end now, with the aleph as the beginning. That's closed. And where's the tone?
At the end.
These vocalic endings pull the stress to the end. So now my new tonic syllable is farther back. The beit and the Keurig yod that's left in the middle, is that tonic anymore?
Retard.
No, it's pre-tonic. And is it open or closed?
Open.
It's open. And the first syllable, is it still open here right now?
Yes.
Yes, but it's not pre-tonic, it's
Open.
proper-tonic because I've added an extra syllable at the end, right? Now I have to apply syllable rules. Let's think about the open pre-tonic syllable now, the V. What do open pre-tonic syllables require?
Long
Long vowel.
Long vowels. Is Keurig yod long?
Historically long.
Yea, verily, yea, it's historically long. So my rule is being followed. No changes would need to happen here, right? But what did we learn that open propertonic syllables do in Hebrew if they can change?
Like this vocal Shabbat.
Open propertonic syllables like to reduce to vocal shava, right? That was what we did over here. Open propertonic syllables want to reduce to vocal shava. So what's that comment's going to change to here?
Vocal Shabbat.
The na is going to become
Yeah.
here. I'll just make two really big dots there and I'll conceal the vowel. So you get everybody see what's
Is that how the division?
The V. So question?
Is that how the division would remain now?
Well, if I were dividing it now,
Yes.
okay, now that I've got all this done, if I just gave you this word and said divide it, you would not divide here because you can't divide after a vocal shava, right?
So in determining when things reduce, you add the ending and then you figure out open, propertonic, whatever, and then that's how you make your decision on what reduces.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
okay. And then
add your ending, recalibrate the syllable divisions and the tone, and then apply the rules that go
now, so you mentioned in the lecture, on the YouTube lecture, something about verbs reducing. Now, will we add verb, suffixes, prefixes, or whatever? Is it the same order when we get to verbs?
Yeah, so with verbs, let me find myself some empty space here. So with nouns and adjectives, okay, they like to follow the open when they reduce things to vocal shava. They like to follow the open propertonic syllables reduced to vocal shava. And then what we'll learn is that verbs, they like to reduce open pretonic syllables to vocal shava. All right. In both of these situations, there's situations where adding an ending creates, for nouns and adjectives, an open propertonic syllable that reduces the vocal shava, or with verbs, adding an ending creates an open pretonic syllable, then it reduces the vocal shava. So let's take a look down at the word nahar. Does anybody remember what nahar means?
River.
Yeah, this is river. Okay, river. Now, if you take a look here at the word river, the fact that it has no ending would make you think that it's what gender?
Masculine.
Masculine, okay? And that will be our assumption, is that this is masculine. So how would I make this plural? What ending would I like to add? Eem. Eem. Now, I want to point out something to you from the Ross lesson. Here is the word for river, nahar. And notice it gives you the plural forms. And what do you see? You see naharim or naharot here. So this is one of those nouns that actually forms its plural using both endings im or ot. It would still appear to be masculine no matter which of those two it has, but we could choose one or the other. Now, since it has zero ending here, I'm going to use the masculine plural, the standard masculine plural im ending. But I just wanted you to see that you might sometimes see ot on the end of this. Where do I add the kirik yod of im?
On the resh.
Yeah, with the resh, right? I got to put the kirik under the resh and the yod and then the mem. All right, good. Now, before I added the im, na is open pre-tonic and har would have been closed and tonic, right? But now when I add the resh, add to the resh the im, what's my syllable structure? Reem is now closed and tonic. Ha is what?
Open.
Open pre-tonic.
Pre-tonic. And na is not open and pre-tonic anymore. Na is what?
Open protonic.
Na has become open and propertonic. And I've got some rules to follow, don't I? Open pretonics require what?
Long.
Long. Is that already long?
Yes.
Nahar, right? That's already long. I don't need to lengthen it. But what do I do to the open propertonic vowel here?
Reduce.
What does Hebrew reduce open propertonic syllables to? Green. They go to vocal shava, right? So I want this to go to vocal shava as well. And so I'm going to get not naharim, but naharim with a vocal shava. Y'all see that? Naharim. Naharim.
And the division will go between between A and resh, correct?
Yeah, if I were doing a dividing line now, this is, oops. Whoa, that was I'm glad I'm not an executioner. I would have shot that's off in the wrong way. It'd be naharim. All right, take a look here at levav. What's the meaning of levav?
Don't know.
I think this is isn't this a new vocab word for us? When do we get levav? I know we used it as an example. Page 76. If you look there. Yeah, make sure you have Ross open because sometimes we'll make reference to Ross as necessary. What's levav mean? Heart. Heart. Okay. So, remember how we said body parts are what gender?
Feminine.
Feminine. So even though this has zero ending and looks masculine, if you've been told that body parts are usually feminine, then you should know that that's a feminine singular noun. Okay. Now, I want to make it plural. Knowing that this is feminine, what's your guess as to what ending I'm going to use to make it feminine plural? Oat. Feminine plural oat. So before we add oats, let's just think about levav's syllable structure. What's the first syllable? Like sound out the first syllable here in the word.
Sarah.
No. Sound out the first syllable. Give me the pronunciation of the first syllable of this word.
Ne.
Lay. Lay, right? Is lay open or closed?
Open.
It's open. And is it tonic, pretonic, propertonic? What?
Pretonic.
It's open and pretonic, right? So open, pretonic. Vav is
Closed.
closed and
Tonic.
tonic. Good. Now we're going to add our ending oats to it. Where do I put the whole and vav? Do I put it under the consonant?
No,
That should look awful, shouldn't it? Where do I put it? It goes to the left with the dot over the va. And then what comes next?
top,
Top. Very good. Now let me ask you, what's the status of the bait? Is it still closing the syllable with va?
no. It's
No.
open.
Every vowel, and Holem Vav is a vowel, every vowel needs a lead what?
Constant.
It needs a lead consonant. So this bait here is going to slide over and start dancing with the Holem Vav. And the bait with the kamets under it is now all by itself with one vowel, and that's it. Where's the tone moved to?
Last.
To the
It's
end,
the final syllable. And is that open or closed?
closed.
That's closed, right? The va is now what? Open,
So,
yes, and what?
pretonic.
Pretonic. And the lay is open still, but it's now
Pro.
propertonic. And now let's apply the rules. Open pretonics require what?
Long vowels.
Long vowel. Is this kamets long under the bait of leva?
Yes.
Yes, that's already long. I don't need to change it then, do I? We're good. But what about the sere? Open propertonics like to do what?
Reduce.
Reduce to what?
Vocal schwa.
Say that, everybody. Reduce the vocal shava. Say it, everybody. Reduce the vocal shava.
Reduce the vocal schwa.
Good. So we're going to change that sere to a what? Shava. Good. So I get not le va vote, but le va vote. Le va vote.
Mhm.
So in all of these words, these first four, the long A or the sere became what when we added the plural ending? Under the first root letter? What did the vowel become?
A vocal schwa.
A vocal shava. And this is going to be a very, very, very common pattern. When you learn your vocabulary word, your first consonant's going to have a full vowel there, usually. But you're going to see that vowel changing constantly when we make the nouns plural or do other things at the end of that noun. And so you're going to have to get used to it. Davar, davarim. Navi, naviim. Nahar, naharim. Levav, levavot. And so forth. You will see consistent vowel changes. And I promise you, if you remember open propertonic syllables like to reduce the vocal schwa, then this isn't actually an exception. This is a normal thing, right? This is not irregular. This is typical behavior in the Hebrew language. Now, on these next four, we're dealing with the same issue in all four of these. Notice that I have accent marks on Melech, Na'ar, Sefer, and Eretz. What kind of nouns are these based on our lesson overview?
Settler.
Yes, these are the segolets. Okay, segolet nouns, or the segolets. Segolet nouns. Segolet nouns are characterized by stress on which syllable in the singular form?
First.
First syllable. Okay, segolets have first syllable stress. First syllable stress. Where do we normally want to stress Hebrew syllables?
Last.
On the final syllable. So these break that mold, right? So they got to be special for stressing them on the first syllable. And they usually have what vowels?
Segol.
Segol, okay? Hence the segolet name. But they don't always have a segol. As you can see, Melech has two segols, but Sefer has one segol. Eretz has two segols. Na'ar has
Nose.
no segol. Okay. I think I explained this in my lesson overview. Why does Na'ar not have any segols? What's going on here?
Is it the ion prefers A class?
That's right. Na'ar would have loved to be net air, but ion is what kind of consonant?
Guttural.
Gutturals. And what are our three characteristics of gutturals?
Don't
take no dominant forte. No vocal shava, compound shava instead. And they prefer what vowel class?
A
A class vowels. And so
Except Aleph, right?
Aleph also prefers A class vowels, but it also likes Segol. Yeah, remember that Aleph liking Segol is not to the exclusion of liking A class vowels, because Aleph is a guttural after all, but it has an additional love for Segol. So the ayin causes the vowel surrounding it to go A class, and that's why these pathaks are right before and right after the ayin. Okay, so it's the guttural issue that's caused that to happen. So what did we learn happens with segulate nouns? In the singular, where's the stress?
First.
On the first syllable. But what are we adding to make these plural? We're adding eem and ot. Are those vocalic endings?
Yes.
No.
Vocalic endings start with vowels, right? And eem starts with the vowel kirik yod, and ot starts with the vowel holam vav. What do these vocalic endings do? They pull the stress where? To the end. And so these segulate nouns, which are so committed to first syllable stress in the singular, will lose that first syllable stress in the plural, and we're going to stress the ending. So we're going to lose the accent marks. This is a situation where it's just going to be better at this point to rewrite the word, because you've got accents changing and vowels changing all over the place on these segulate nouns when we make them plural. So what happens to the vowel pattern on segulate nouns when we add a plural ending? The principle here is segulates follow the pattern of the word davar, which we saw up here. What happens to davar when it becomes plural? We get vocal shava under root 1 and comments under root 2, and then the ending is added to root 3, right? So what will it look like when I make melech plural? First of all, I have to know what gender is it. What gender is melech?
Masculine.
This is masculine. And so which ending am I looking for plural?
Im.
Eem. Eem. So I'm going to have to rewrite this. ML kaf, right? But with the non-final form of kaf, because we've got to be able to add something to it. And then my pattern wants to be root 1 gets segol. I'm sorry, vocal shava. Root 2 gets kametz. And then root 3 takes either eem or ot, depending on whether the noun is masculine or feminine. Okay, so melech then is going to take eem. So I'm going to add eem to the final kaf. But what's going to happen to the vowel points? Do I just transpose the segols over?
No.
No, I transpose the vowel pointing of davar, aim, right? Devarim, vocal shava kametz. I gotta push those up into the first two consonants or root letters here. So hold on a second. What goes under the maim?
Vocal
Vocal
shava.
shava. What goes under the lamed?
Comment.
The comments. Okay, and that is what all segulate nouns are going to be shooting to do when they become plural. So I've got to revocalize malachim instead of melechim. Malachim. All right. So question?
Yeah, what happened to the Shabbat on the cough?
Yeah, what kind of shava is that under the cough?
Silent.
Silent. So okay, good. So the cough is closing the syllable here. Is the cough closing the syllable there? No. So I don't have a closed syllable anymore where the cough is the closing consonant. So the silent shava is not going to stay there.
That's the reason it falls out.
Yep.
Because it's no
Yep.
longer closing it.
Yeah. And the final cough is one of the only two consonants that ever takes a silent shava at the end of a word. So that's the only place I'm gonna see it. If I start attaching things to it, that silent Shabbat goes away. Okay, so everybody say this with me. Melech. What does Melech mean?
King.
And then everyone, Malachim.
Malachim.
What does that mean? Yes, that's kings. How would I say the king?
Hamelech.
Hamelech. How would I say the kings?
Hamelachim.
That's right, Hamelachim. Now, you would expect the Hey Pasak doubling dot, but what could you see happen in this situation? Hamelachim.
What's your
Yeah.
question?
If you take a look, go ahead and look at the screen. What might happen if you were to add the article to Malachim? Hamelachim.
Oh.
You have a Dagesh forte?
I have a Dagesh forte in the MAME. And what's under the MAME?
Vocal Shavas, so Squintum Levy.
This is a Squintum Levy letter, isn't it? Is MAME in the Squintum Levy set?
Yes.
Yes. M stands for MAME, right? What happens if there's a Dagesh forte in a Squintum Levy letter and a vocal Shavah in a Squintum Levy letter? What might drop out?
The Dagesh Forte.
Yeah, so you could see this written with a Dagesh forte gone. I'm just reminding you, that repetition principle of something that we were talking about earlier today.
So you said the Dagesh Forte could drop out, so Squintum Levy's not an absolute every single time rule?
No. It's pretty consistent, but it's not every single time. So now you know when to expect a vocal Shavah to show up, right? Like you couldn't have until we got to this part of the class, you couldn't have anticipated when a vocal Shavah is going to be there. But when we told you things like gutturals, where was that guttural list? Gutturals, they don't take vocal Shavahs. So when they need a vocal Shavah, they get a compound Shavah instead. Now you have a sense for when a guttural might need a vocal Shavah. When might a guttural need a vocal Shavah? If a guttural happens to be the first consonant of a word and I've got a plural form, a vocal Shavah wants to go there, doesn't it? What will it have to do?
Compound.
It'll have to change this vocal Shavah to a compound Shavah, like the Kathef Pathak or something else.
And that's where the third guttural rule will inform, it'll probably be the one with the patak.
Yeah, usually it's going to be that one.
Oh.
But if I had an Aleph, sometimes I could see this one because Aleph likes A-class vowels, but it also likes segols too. So sometimes I could see that with an Aleph in particular. All right. Don't worry about how to predict that. I'm just letting you know that we're building our knowledge of the language here, and you now know when a vocal Shavah might occur, right? What are typical places for a vocal Shavah to occur? Okay, so let's take a look at Sefer. Sefer means what? Book or scroll, because in the ancient world, the only kind of books there were scroll books. Until they created the codex, where you stitched the edges and leaves, and then you could flip it. Okay, otherwise you always rolled them and read them that way. But we'll say book here. Now, is this a Segulate noun?
Yes.
Great. So here's what I want you to do. Determine whether you think it's masculine or feminine, and then add the masculine or feminine plural ending, and then adjust any vowels under the first two root consonants to what we've said Segulate nouns do. Okay, so go ahead and do that on your own, and then come back and let's see if you and I agree. Okay, you can talk to your neighbor as well after you've done it. So you should be able to do this in like 20 seconds. So we add im to the resh because it's a masculine noun. And then the accent and the vowels under roots 1 and 2, the samic and the pei, do I leave those the same or do I change it all?
Change.
I change it. I keep the accent on the first syllable in the singular, but the vocalic ending always pulls the stress to the back when I make it plural. And then what's the first vowel point going to be under the samic? Vocal shiva. Second vowel under the pei,
Comments.
kamets. So sefer becomes sefa, like davar became devarim. Devarim, sefarim. They're going to rhyme every time. Okay? Sefarim. You can't say sefarim. Okay? Don't stress that first syllable when the seglet noun is plural. Sefarim. Sefarim. Say that to me. Sefarim. Sefarim. What does that mean?
Books.
Books. Good. Good. Now let's go over here to na'ar. Na'ar. What's a na'ar?
River.
That's nahar. You gotta
Point.
be straight.
That's youth.
Nahar is river, na'ar is youth.
Because the youth need to join the army.
Youth. All right. Now, do you think that's masculine or feminine?
Masculine.
Masculine. So what am I going to add to the resh of na'ar?
E.
Eem. I'm going to make that plural by adding eem. Good. And then what do I do with the accent mark and the vowel points? We're going to wipe them clean, right? Cannot keep the accent here anymore because where does the accent go in the plural?
Final.
I'm going to put it in parentheses. It goes back to the final syllable, right? I don't have to mark final syllable stress, but that's where it goes. So it's going to be reem. What's going to happen to the first two vowels? The noon takes what under it?
Vocal shiva.
Vocal shiva. Say that out loud. Vocal shiva. Second consonant takes what vowel now?
Commence.
Kamet. Very good. Is there anything that would not allow me to put a vocal shiva and a kametz here in these places?
You're golden.
No. Nothing. That's all good, right? Noon can take a vocal shiva under it. It's all good. So everybody, na'arim. And that means what?
Youth.
Plural. So everybody, na'ar.
Nahar.
Na'ar. Na'ar is youth. Na'arim.
Na'arim.
That's youth. Okay, so let's take a look at eretz. Eretz. What gender does eretz look like?
Looks like
Yeah.
There's no ending. It looks masculine. Is it masculine? Ooh, the word eretz is feminine. That's right. How do you know that? Oh, was it chapter 2 when he first introduced it? I'm wondering if does he tell you that it's feminine there?
he does.
Yes.
Okay. There it is. Yeah. Because of my thing here, the English gloss is up here, but the Hebrew word is down here. So anyhow, so he does tell you that that's feminine there. Okay. But you're right. You looked at the glossary and you see that this is described as feminine hyphen masculine, right? And it seems to be the case that some native speakers in Hebrew see the zero ending form and on some occasions treat it like it's masculine. And so you know how we talked about how you have agreement features with adjectives or verbs? I think the reason that you've got masculine stated as sometimes an alternative gender assignment is that you got places where it's treated like it's masculine. But usually it's going to show up as a feminine form. So we'll go with feminine here. Okay. So what am I going to add for my ending? Eem or oat? I'm going to want to go oat. Okay. So because I've got a final sadi here, I can't leave that final sadi. So this is where I really got to rewrite the consonants, right? So aleph, resh, sadi. So what am I adding to the sadi?
Oh.
Oat. Oat. Where do I put the holam vav of oat?
To the left.
Got to put it right to the left. So holam vav tav, the sadi is going to slide over and take the vowel here, right? So, and what happens to the accent mark above and the two vowels below roots 1 and 2? Will I keep accenting?
No accent.
Nope. So no accent. And what goes under the olive?
Shava.
Vocal shava.
Compound Shiva.
Oh, but I can't put a vocal shava under an olive because an olive is a guttural. The guttural don't take vocal shava. So when it wants a vocal shava, it takes a compound shava. And generally, we're going to expect an A-class version of the compound shava unless we're told otherwise. So we're going to put the kataf pasak there. Okay. And then the resh will take what vowel point?
Yes.
Because that's what they always take, right? So usually vocal shava, kametz. If there's a guttural here, then I get compound shava. So everybody, arat sot.
Alright,
Arat sot.
so
Lands, plural, lands. So arat, everybody.
Eretz.
Arat, and then arat sot. Arat sot. Okay, good, good. So that's Segalit nouns. Exciting stuff, huh?
Yeah.
By the way, when we do this to the nouns, let's go back and let's play with Sepharim here for a second. Okay. Let's say I add im to Sepharim. Then I've got resh going over here and pulling the stress to the end. So what ends up happening? This is open and pretonic. This is open and proprotonic, isn't it? Can you understand why a vocal shava wants to show up here?
yes.
What did we learn open proprotonic syllables like to do in Hebrew?
Reduce.
The vocal shava. Open pretonic syllables need what?
A long line.
A long vowel. Is segol long?
No.
No. So it just consistently takes the kametz as a long vowel, right? So once we just apply vocal shava kametz, we are following the syllable rules for each of these syllables when we do that, aren't we?
Sir.
All right. Let's look at these last four. All of these are going to sort of behave in the same sort of way in terms of what they're wanting to do. What did we learn in our lesson overview about nouns like hok and am? What do these two nouns share in common?
Monosyllabic.
Ah, they are monosyllabic. What does mono mean?
One.
One. So how many syllables do these nouns have? One. One syllable nouns, right? They're one syllable and their vowel is changeable. Which vowels are changeable? Well, it might be easier to answer it this way. Which ones are not changeable?
Historically, long vowels are not changeable.
Historically, long vowels are not changeable. The ones with the mater, those are unchangeably long. So anything else is changeable. It can reduce, it can shorten, it can lengthen. Is that a historically long vowel? That holum there with hok?
No.
No. Is the pasak historically long under ayin?
No.
No, that's not historically long. So both of these are changeable vowels. What did we learn about changeable vowels in the lesson? There is a black Hebrew helicopter flying around covertly, ready to drop a Dagesh Forte. Where?
Final consonant.
The Dagesh Forte wants to drop into the final consonant of a monosyllabic word with a changeable vowel when we do what to the noun? When we add an ending to it. If we add an ending to a noun that's monosyllabic and changeable, Dagesh Forte is going to pop in there. What's the Dagesh forte gonna do? It's gonna close the syllable, right? Okay,
Are we saying that monosyllabic nouns will always have a changeable vowel, or just that when they do, we get the helicopter?
when they do,
Okay.
when they do, okay? So you learned the word Seuss. Is that a monosyllabic word?
Yes.
Yes, but does it have a changeable vowel?
No.
No, Shurik is historically long, so it's not changeable. So when I make this plural with eam, am I gonna have a Dagesh forte there in that final somic?
No.
No. And we didn't see that when we learned the forms of Seuss, did we? So this does not follow this principle because the vowel is not changeable. It has to be a changeable vowel and monosyllabic at the same time. Okay? So when that happens, we're going to get Dagesh forte here. So let's go to, let's do first. Okay? What does mean? Yeah, that's nation or people. Okay? We want to make that plural. So what do you think the gender of is? Masculine, and you would be right. So which ending do I want to add to Eam. Everybody says to me, eam.
Eam.
Can I add eam to that consonant right there? The way it's written.
Yeah.
Can I? Which form of the meme is that? Final form.
Well,
I add eam to that. Is that meme final anymore?
No.
no.
So can do, right? So I'm going to have to rewrite this one. Ayin, mame, and then I add the eam to it. Now, what's the vowel here? That's pathak, right? Let's assume I can keep that pathak there, but what happens to monosyllabic nouns with a changeable vowel when I add an ending like eam? I'm going to see a Dagesh forte, right? The little black Hebrew helicopter is going to covertly drop a Dagesh forte inside that meme. And now I've got amim, amim. Now, is this short vowel okay in that position?
It's open in Protonic, so no.
Is it open and Protonic with the Dagesh forte here?
It is not open in Protonic.
No, it's not, right? Once I got that Dagesh forte in, that's a closed syllable and the tonic syllables in the end. So is this a cuss syllable here? The first syllable.
Yes.
Closed and pre-tonic, which means it's closed and not accented, right? So cuss requires what kind of vowel?
Sure.
Short. And the pathak is already short. So I don't have any vowel change here, do I? That's good. That's nice. Let's take a look at hoke, which means what? This is from the lesson. You wouldn't know this from anything else. It's the word statute, as in the ordinances and the statutes of the Lord. Statute. We want to make that plural. Is hoke monosyllabic with a changeable vowel?
Yes.
Yes. Holum is changeable, and there's only one vowel, so it's monosyllabic. This looks like a, what, masculine or feminine noun?
Masculine singular.
Masculine. So what do you think the ending will be?
Eam.
Eam. So let's add eam. Is there any reason why the kof can't stay written the way it is?
Because it's the ending, the last consonant is going to change.
Does kof have a final form that I have to switch to? Or a non-final?
No, it does
No.
not.
Kof is always written this way, so I can leave the kof the way it is, right? But what's going to happen inside the kof now that I've added an ending to this monosyllabic word with a changeable vowel?
Okay.
The black Hebrew helicopter is going to drop a Dagesh forte right in there, isn't it? Is this a closed syllable?
Yes.
It is. Dagesh fortes always do two things. What do?
Double and close.
They double the consonant and they close the first syllable and open the second. If I'm dividing, I got to grab the dot and write the letter C to the right of the dividing line because there's always a closed syllable when there's a Dagesh forte, right? Where's the tonic syllable?
The final.
It's the final syllable. So hoke is pretonic in the first syllable, and closed is that a cuss syllable.
Yes.
Yes. What does Hebrew require of cuss syllables? Short vowel. Is holum long or short? Holum is a long vowel. Can it stay long here when it's in a cuss syllable? No, it cannot stay. I have to go to a short vowel now, don't I? And the vowel it takes is a kibbutz in this particular situation.
Really?
It becomes chukim instead of chokim. Chukim. All right? So you might be asking yourself, why not a kametz ketuf, right? Isn't that what you might have thought here?
Yes.
The long O holum could have become a short O kametz ketuf. Well, let me just remind you of something that we thought about way back when we were doing vowels. And this comes up in chapter 9 as well, but let me show you that vowel chart. When we were doing the 5 vowel chart layout, what did we see here? For the long vowels, all we had was kametz, sere, and holum, right? For the tone long vowels.
Mhm.
And what I told you way back then was that the sere is the long version of both the segol and the keurig. And the holum is the long vowel that corresponds to the kametz ketuf and the kibbutz. So if I have situations where either segol or keurig need to go long, they'll become a sere. Or if I had a sere that needed to become short due to cuss, it would go to segol or keurig. Kametz ketuf and kibbutz, if they need to become long, because let's say they become open and pretonic, and that requires a long vowel, then the holum is the only thing I can go to. There is no tone long kibbutz, right? And going in reverse, if I had a long holum and I needed to make it short due to cuss, then it could go to one of these 2 short vowels, okay? And hoke, I'm sorry, here it is. Hoke chooses kibbutz for its short vowel in this particular word. All right. I'm not so concerned that you memorize or know how to anticipate which short vowel it takes. I just want to make sure you understand why it's no longer long. You guys know why it's no longer holum? Long? The Dagesh Forte created a closed unaccented syllable because Dagesh Fortes always close a syllable, right? All right.
Dr. Marshall, will it change depending on the word which short vowel it changes to, or will it always go to the kibbutz?
Yeah, it's gonna pretty consistently, well, like this one, it'll go to kibbutz all the time.
Because you gave the example of the pelo and peluqueria, which changes down, and you see it in Spanish as well. The change.
Right, yes. Pelo and peluqueria have that same O to U sort of correspondence like we have here. But yeah, holum won't always go to kibbutz when it needs to go short. So there'll be some other places. Like, I don't know if you recall, but we were talking about the word coal, which is normally spelled this way, right, with a holum. But when I add the makaf, this loses its stress, right? And it becomes a cuss syllable. Do you remember what that holum became?
Kametz ketuf.
Yeah, in that circumstance, it became kametz ketuf.
Whoa.
Right. So you can see both kametz ketuf and kibbutz can be what a holum reduces to when it needs to become short.
And we just need to know that association, but not necessarily memorize which goes to which.
Right. Yes. Just you'll get used to which nouns, have the vowel become what as you see them. Yeah, but you can't always anticipate. Now, the last thing here is is to look at the final two words, ra and ah. Now, what does ra mean?
Evil.
or bad.
Evil. Okay, and it could be the adjective evil, or it can function as a noun and mean evil one or evil man. So I want to make this plural. So if this is functioning as a noun, it would be evil ones. Now, is ra monosyllabic?
Yes.
Does it have a changeable vowel?
Yes.
Yeah, pathak is changeable. It's not historically long. So if I want to make this plural, assume for a minute that this is masculine. Why would I assume that that form is masculine?
No ending.
There's no ending, right? So how would I make ra masculine plural? Add what? Whoa.
Eem.
Add eem. Add eem. And then what does the Black Hebrew helicopter want to drop into the ion covertly?
But it doesn't take it.
Compensatorily lengthy.
Is that okay?
No, not wrong.
Ions don't take no doggish forte from anybody because they're part of what?
That's good game.
And when ion rejects a doggish forte, what's its strategy for the preceding vowel?
That's
Compensatory
it.
lengthening.
Compensatory lengthened. So you see what I've done. I tried to put a doggish forte there because it's supposed to, but the guts are, well, they're the gang of consonants wreaking havoc in the Hebrew language, right? So I have to make an adjustment when I have a guts involved. So that's what we get, ra'im. Ra'im. So with the doggish forte gone, do I have a cuss syllable like I did before when the doggish forte was present? Is this a closed syllable?
No.
No, the ayin has really rejected the dagash, and the comment says lengthen to compensate for the loss of dagash. So this really is an open pretonic syllable, and that's why it's got what?
Long
That's
vowel.
why it's got to have a long vowel here too, right? Okay, now let's look at the last one. I have ach, which means what?
Brother.
Other, which is appropriate for the pronunciation. Ach. Oh, sure. Every time Joseph's brothers saw him, they said, ach, it's you. Okay, so ach is brother. I want to make this plural, brothers. Is this a monosyllabic word with a changeable vowel?
Yes.
No,
Yes, it is.
Oh,
no, well, yes.
oh, yes, that's not a, hey.
Yeah, that's not a comment's hey, it's a comment's hate, right? As in Joseph's brothers hate him. Ach. Okay, so I want to drop a doggish forte in here as soon as I add an ending. Brothers are masculine, aren't they?
Yep.
The plural ending should be im. Now, what's going to happen here? This one's interesting. And on page 78, Ross tells you that what happens here with hate is that, can I put a doggish forte there?
No.
No. What's it going to do to the doggish forte?
Jack.
Reject.
Reject it. At least it can't be written. But what do hates like to do when a doggish forte is forced upon it?
Virtual doubling.
Yes. Hey and hate, like VD or ID, right? Virtual doubling or implied doubling. So what does that mean? The hate is acting like it's doubled. The hate is acting like there's a doggish forte, which means it's treating it like there's two hates, where the aleph and the comments and the first hate go together in a closed syllable, and the second hate, the virtually doubled hate, opens the new syllable. Is this considered open or closed with virtual doubling? First syllable is closed, which means the tone is over here. This is closed and pretonic. That cannot stay long, can it? Because cuss requires what kind of vowel? Short vowel. So what's this what's this comment's going to change to? Going to change to the short A. It's going to become a pathak. So I'm going to get achim looking like that. Okay. So Very sorry about the way that's spelled. I can't really do anything about it. Like that. That's a big thick pathak. Okay, so achim. All right.
Hey, Dr. Marshall.
Yeah. Oh, here, let me just ask you this. Let's say that you didn't even remember that chet does virtual doubling and all of that. Could you still read this word if you knew the word ach was brother?
Yes.
You read achim, you would know that's ach in the plural, that's brothers, right?
Yep.
You can read the text anyway, either way. So, yeah, question? All right. Let's look at the last thing here. The last thing we learned in our lesson had to do with a new preposition that you learned about called the preposition min. What does min mean? What's the most common way to translate the min?
From or
From,
or
could also be of,
Yeah.
right? So from or of. All right, good. And I taught you there are two ways to write the preposition min in front of the noun that's the object. From the field, from the man, from the bathhouse, right? The min goes in front, but there's two ways to do it. I called them
CC
way and the Marine Corps way, right? What's the sissy way to do it? To write the word min with what?
Like
Because that way you don't have to do anything special or weird with the min. But the Marine Corps way is the hard way. It's always the hard way. What's the Marine Corps way? You assimilate the noon. You take the min and you drop the noon, and instead it becomes a doubling dot, and it's attached directly to the noun on the first word. All right. So what is the process of the noon becoming a doubling dot in the next consonant that we're attaching the min to directly? What was that called?
Assimilating.
Assimilation. When something assimilates, it becomes similar to something, right? So in our lesson, just by way of reminder, adding the prefix in front of something means not, right? Inability, no ability. But what happens when we add the prefix in to words like mobile, reducible, and logical? What happens? Do I say something is immobile?
No.
No. The N assimilates to the next consonant and becomes a copy of the consonant. So what does the N become an immobile? Immobile. When we say that something is not reducible, do we say irreducible? No. The N assimilates to the next consonant R, and what does the N become?
R.
It becomes an R, and we get irreducible, right? If something's not logical, do I say illogical? No. The N assimilates to the L of logical, and what does the N become?
No.
It becomes an L. So I get illogical when something's not logical. So we do assimilation in English as well. Hebrew assimilates the noon of min, and it becomes a copy of the consonant that it butts up next to. So let's add the min preposition to these words the Marine Corps way. The sissy way would be easy. How would I do it the sissy way? Min with a makef, right? How would you translate min sus?
Well, from a horse.
From, and is it the horse or a horse?
Hey.
There's no article here, right? So that's from a horse. But we want to do it the Marine Corps. Forget this sissy way. How would I do that? Well, I would attach the min directly, and then the min becomes a copy of the samic. So it would become a samic itself. Minsus becomes missus. And then what do I do when I have two letters that are written the same, and one's closing a syllable and opening the next syllable? I just write it one time with what? With the Doggett forte, right? So, or to put it another way, the noon assimilates and becomes a Doggett forte in the consonant to indicate that it's become a doubling of that first consonant. It's become a copy of that first consonant. So mensus becomes missus. Missus. The Doggett forte represents the assimilated noons. All right.
Professor, did you say that the me is doubled? Is that the man is doubled? You said
No, the MAME is not what's doubling. Whenever I have a noun, okay, and so this box represents any noun. This is the first consonant of the noun. It's the first consonant of the noun that's doubling because that's where I'm putting the Doggett forte.
okay.
All right. But why is it doubling? It's not doubling because I am starting with two of the same consonant. It's because that doubled consonant represents a noon that assimilated to whatever the root one consonant is. So if my word starts with a somic, men added to a word that begins with a somic, the noon becomes a somic, and then the somic becomes a Doggett forte there. That's the step.
Thank you.
If I had a kof and I wrote min kof, what would the noon become? The noon becomes a kof, but then I don't write the kof twice. I just leave that single kof and put the Doggett forte there to represent the first kof that is representing the noon that's assimilated. Now, when I get to Melek, this is where you can get confused. I want to add the min directly to Melek the Marine Corps way. What do? I would have added min like this, min Melek, but what's this noon going to do? It's going to look at this MAME and say, ha, I'm going to assimilate and become a MAME like you. So what does the noon change to? It changes to Melek. Now I have three Meleks, three M's, don't I? But instead of writing these two MAMEs separately, what can I do if this this MAME is closing and the MAME of Melek here, if that MAME is opening? If the same consonant closes a syllable and opens a syllable, it's easiest just to write it one time with the Doggett forte, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just erase that assimilated noon that became a Melek and put a Doggett forte in the consonant next to it. So that's the way to write that. So mim Melek with a Doggett forte. What's the Doggett forte represent? It represents the assimilated noon of min.
Now, Professor, if moving forward, would you want us to just memorize it the Marine Corps way or the system?
Yes, yes. Anytime I ask you to add the min to a word, always do it the Marine Corps way, because that's the one that's the trickiest. The other way, everybody can do it, even a baby can do it, right?
I mean, when you simplify it seems kind of like easier the Marine way because you just like add a dagesh to the next consonant. So
yeah, let's go with that. That's easier, everybody. Now, it is in a way, yeah. So mid plus a doubling dot is what it's going to look like then once you assimilate the noon, right?
Right.
Mid plus a doubling dot.
I mean, it takes a lot of work to simplify, but once you do that, then it's easy.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's go over here. Now I have ish. So the Marine Corps way would be what? I'll write this in red to make it a little bit easier to see. I'd put meh and the noon assimilates and becomes a Dagesh forte in the next consonant, right? Is that good?
That's gay. No.
No. Why? Because Aleph is what kind of consonant?
Guttural.
It's a guttural, and it's going to reject that Dagesh forte, isn't it? And what will the preceding vowel do?
It's
It will compensatorily lengthen. So instead of mi'ish, I get, well, what does the Keurig become? It becomes a sere when it has to go long, right? So I get me'ish. Me'ish. Remember, as we saw just a second ago, segols and Keurigs become sere when they want to become long. Okay, so me'ish. How would I translate me'ish?
Man.
From the man.
I gotta add from, right? From a man. It's not articular, there's no article here, so it's from a man. Now, last, we have ha'ish, ha'ish. How do I want to say from the man? From the man, what do I do? Well, I could just add the me with the doubling dot, the Marine Corps way, just like that, right? And that's what I would normally do, but is that okay? Is that kosher?
No,
No, what's wrong with that?
guttural.
The guttural doesn't take any Dagesh from anyone, so it's going to reject the Dagesh forte. And like with the Aleph, and this is one of the only places where this happens, the hey is going to cause compensatory lengthening here. And so what's the Keurig going to become? It's going to become sere. So I'm going to get me ha'ish. Me ha'ish. So what is happening here? Does the min swallow the hey?
No.
No. So the only prepositions that swallow the article hey are which three?
Labaka.
Kaf, lamed. The inseparable prepositions bait, kaf, lamed. Those are the only ones that eat hay sandwich. Okay? Nothing else swallows the hay.
Dr. Marshall, so there was a lengthening here. So the rules from lesson 6 on article being attached to nouns that start with Greek letters, those lengthenings or doublings were really only for the article. They won't also be for other situations.
Right. Not necessarily for the other place. Now, the principles of rejecting a Dagesh when one tries to go, the gutturals will still reject it, right? And usually the principle of compensatory lengthening and virtual doubling, those usually apply. This is just a very exceptional case with the hey doing the forcing the compensatory lengthening.
Is that just the word ha'ish, or is that?
No, it's any time I add min to ha. On any form of ha.